Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into a single football result that, well, it tells a much bigger story about one of the world's most famous clubs. It's a story about fading glory, some really tough decisions, and a club that's at a critical tipping point.
So let's set the scene. At first glance, you might just see a pretty standard result. Liverpool won, Sunderland won. Yeah, it's a disappointing draw at home, no doubt. But in a 38-game season, it's hardly a catastrophe, right? I mean, especially since Liverpool had to fight back from behind just to get that point. But, the score? That's not really what this is about. The real story here is what this result symbolizes. It's one piece of a really troubling pattern that goes way beyond just two dropped points. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how this Liverpool team is seen, and maybe more importantly, how it sees itself. And the problem really starts at the one place it never ever should, Anfield. I mean, for decades, this stadium has been an absolute fortress, a place where teams showed up basically already beaten. But that aura, that feeling of invincibility, it's starting to disappear. And look, this isn't just some pundit talking. This is coming straight from the manager, Arne Slot himself. He's openly admitting that the fear factor is gone. Teams aren't scared to play at Anfield anymore. They show up thinking, yeah, we can get something here. Just let that number sink in for a second. 10. That's how many times in just their last 14 matches, across all competitions, that Liverpool have failed to win. This isn't a blip, It's not a one-off bad day. It's a consistent trend that points to a much deeper issue for a club that's supposed to be chasing titles. Okay, so the fortress is looking a bit shaky. You gotta ask, right? Who's actually on the pitch? So let's zoom in on the players, because it's those individual moments, both the brilliant and the not so brilliant, that are really telling the story here. And this slide just sums it all up perfectly. It's a tale of two players, really. On one side, you've got Florian Wirtz, who was a real spark, lively, creative, and right in the middle of the play for the equalizer. But then, on the other side, you have your captain, a rock like Virgil van Dijk, making a sloppy pass that gives Sunderland their goal. It's the whole team's problem in a nutshell. Moments of promise completely canceled out by huge, uncharacteristic mistakes. And look, it's not just about pointing fingers at one guy. As the folks at This Is Anfield pointed out, a lot of players across the board just seem off. This feels bigger than just bad form. It points to a kind of fragility, both mentally and tactically, where even your best players are struggling with intensity and making bad decisions. So let's get a bit tactical for a second. There's this phrase you hear a lot with teams that are struggling: possession without penetration. Against Sunderland, Liverpool had the ball over 70% of the time. But what did they do with it? They passed it sideways, backwards, but they rarely looked dangerous. They just didn't have that killer instinct to turn all that time on the ball into actual chances. And trust me, this isn't the first time we've seen this from them this season. Okay, so the team's struggling. Naturally, everyone's looking at one person, the manager. What is Arne Slot doing about it? Well, that brings us to some pretty big and, you could say, controversial calls he's been making. And this is the big one. Benching a superstar, a club icon like Mohamed Salah, is a massive statement. But to do it for 2 league games in a row? Whoa, that is not just about rotating the squad. That's the manager sending a powerful message to Salah, to the dressing room, to the fans, probably even to the owners. So what's the play here? That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Is Slot trying to fundamentally change the team? Maybe build a new system that doesn't lean so heavily on one or two guys? Or is this more of a psychological move, just a desperate attempt to shake things up and jolt the squad back to life? And Slot himself knows this isn't fixed. He basically said that their recent win was just putting a Band-Aid on the problem, not curing it. He's totally aware that the performances are nowhere near the level they need to be, which kind of explains why he's taking these big gambles. All right, let's pull all these threads together. You've got the lost fear factor at home, you've got star players looking inconsistent, and you have a manager making these huge, risky calls. It all leads to the biggest question of all. Where exactly is this club going? And this really gets to the heart of the debate, doesn't it? On one hand, you could say this is all just a work in progress, a painful but necessary rebuild. They're trying to integrate new signings, give young players a shot, all part of a transition under a new manager. Or is it something more worrying? An actual identity crisis where a top club is starting to look and be treated like just another mid-table team. So how do they fix this? Well, more and more, it's looking like the answer might not be in the current dressing room.
The January transfer window is right around the corner, and it feels absolutely massive for them. They clearly need reinforcements, and rumors are already flying about new forwards. All this while their defense is still a mess, thanks to key injuries. And that's really the critical question hanging over everything. This whole season feels like it's balanced on a knife's edge. The decisions that get made in the next few months, especially in that transfer window, they're not just about saving this season. They could end up defining the direction of Liverpool Football Club for years to come.